It's been a long time, but I'm making a new video here, and hopefully it'll be useful. I'm going to make hopefully a series of short videos showing how to do things interacting with the AWS environment and using Visual Studio and C#.NET Core, and that's going to be pretty good. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so our first step is you need to have some prerequisites installed. So Visual Studio 2019 is definitely required. And we're going to, I've already opened Visual Studio 2019 and I'm going to create a new project. Okay, and here we go. It's already set in my instance for ASP.NET Core Web Application. So we'll click on that, and then we'll click on Next. Alright, so let's give this a name. Web App with Swagger. And if you have any questions, Swagger is a great tool for integrated testing and self-documenting of code, which is very important to me because often documentation done as a separate step lags behind. So this documentation is done right along with the creation of your web API. So we're going to click on Create. And we're going to click on API. And I'm going to enable Docker support because later on we may take this and move it out to AWS in a container. And that does seem to be a natural next step, or one of the later next steps, so that you don't have to waste resources in hosting this on a server. And we're going to configure for HTTPS. A lot of things don't really work well without HTTPS anymore. So that's one of the things we want to have on, and it's going to ask us a question about that most likely. So we're going to click on Create. Alright, there we go. This is like the splash screen. We're not really going to use this, so we're just going to close that. And what Visual Studio has done is created controllers among other things and wired things up. And we're just going to double click on this controller that it created for us. And let's see if we can make this a little smaller. Maybe not. Alright, what we can do though is we can pin that, there we go. And so it's going to randomly generate some information. Nothing too nuclear. You will get a warning in some systems that check for things that this is not like a secure random number, but we don't really care about that. Eventually we're going to remove this controller after we're getting going with our actual web methods and controllers. So we're going to hit Docker execute. So earlier when we were talking about prerequisites, you do need to have Docker installed. Docker installation can cause some issues, so it's something that you'll want to take your time and get set up yourself. So we're just going to say yes here, and yes again, and that's just making a local certificate so that we can have HTTPS going locally. And there we go. It's wonderful JSON output, and you see it's an array, and its record has different elements inside of it, and that's pretty cool. Alright, so we'll close that, we'll stop our application, and the next step is to add Swagger. But unfortunately, Swagger inside of VisualStudio.net, and C# is not called Swagger, it's called Swashbuckle. So what we'll do is we'll go to Tools, and here we go, and manage NuGet packages for this project solution, right? And it's on installed. We're going to go to Browse, and we're going to type in Swashbuckle. Enter. And there we go. But we don't want, we can't just click on any of these. We want swashbuckle.ASP.NET Core. So we'll click on that guy. We'll select our project, and we're just going to take the default latest stable and click on Install. And we're going to click on OK because we don't particularly care, and we can hit I accept. So there's things going on in the background, but as long as things work, we don't care about them. When things don't work, and suddenly we care about them. Okay, so here we go. And we have to do a few things to get this going. Okay, so once we've, imported Swashbuckle, which enables Swagger, there's a little bit of code that we have to add. Now this code is going to change some over time, but we're starting here with the absolute basics that we need. So the first step is to add this line of code up here. We need this particular library. Okay, if we go down a little further, and this is in the startup.cs file. Step 2 is we need to add Swagger generation. Okay, so there are some string literals here, and it's really up to us to decide what we want these to be. I changed this from whatever the default is. And so that's step 2. Alright, and then step 3, and we go down into the startup.configure. So this is the first is startup.configure services, and then startup.configure. And I like to put this later in the code to make sure that things like use routing have already run. I know sometimes they like to put this in the development code up here. I don't like doing that because it's documentation, it's live documentation, and it doesn't matter if other people can see it. They can see these methods, wonderful, but we're going to do things so that they can't be accessed by just anybody. Okay, so we're doing app.useSwagger and app.useSwagger UI, and this points to the Swagger JSON file. This file is generated by the code that we saw earlier in step 2. And then again, here's just a string. This does show up in the UI, so we can decide what we want that to look like. So we're going to go ahead and run this in Docker again. And we're going to change that Docker file in the future to be something that works for us better than what the default Docker file is. Okay, so the application in Visual Studio is still pointed to this weather forecast. Okay, but if we delete that and we just type in Swagger, and there we go. Here is our UI self-documenting, right? And if we click on here, we can see that it returns a class that has date, temperature in centigrade, temperature in Fahrenheit, and summary. And if we click on try it out and we click on execute, it gives us a nice formatted output of what's coming back to us, and it scrolls and it's all sorts of really good stuff. This is much better than that. Alright, so our next step here is going to be to set this as our default page that's going to come up from Visual Studio, because we don't want to come up to this that output directly. That's not a great thing. It's not the end of the world, but it's not a great thing. So if we go ahead and go over here and we go to our project and we right click, there we go, and we click on properties. And sometimes I have to hunt a little bit for this. You know, I don't necessarily go in here all that often. Package. But here we go. And this is all pretty good. We can just replace weather forecast with Swagger, and we can save this file, and we'll run it again. And there we go. It opens up straight into Swagger, which is a great thing. There's one thing that I do want to fix though. I don't like how they've set up the default for the web service. I guess we all have our own peculiarities with this kind of stuff. So we're going to go over here, we're going to stop the app, and we're going to go to the controller. Right, and it says root controller. So we've got it up here, right? And so it goes just straight to weather forecast, which is the name of our weather forecast controller. And it just kind of takes anything before the word controller.cs, and that is what goes into the controller. The action here is the method. So if we go down to our HTTP GET here, actually I don't like this. Let's do this. Control X. Here's our GET. We're going to do a root. The controller slash action. That is not correct. It should be just action. In paren, in bracket. Let's see, we need to get some quotes in here. And we're going to save that. And let's give it a run. So now it's, yeah, I don't really like that. I kind of thought that was going to happen. It's repeating the controller twice. So we can just go over here, and take that out. Let's give her a stop and give her a run again. Close that. So this is a little bit better. If we click on this and we click try it out, and we execute it, you're going to see here that it's calling my my local host on this particular port, and it's doing weather forecast slash get. So now we can have multiple different kinds of methods here that are gets, and you know, then now the action here, we would put this in front of each one of those, and there you go, voila. You've got a new method. You know, let's just do one really quick because it's not so hard. Let's do public string. Yeah, string get new string. Okay. And so we'll see how this works out. We're going to do, oops, that is not what we're going to do. Root, well, what am I doing here? We can just copy these two. It's going to be a get method, and it's going to have the action there. And let's stop the program so we don't get these annoying green lines. so that's not a big deal. And we're just going to say return some text. Okay, no big deal, right? We're going to save our file and we're going to run it. Right, and now you see that we have two methods. There's only one schema at present, which is fine. And here's our schema, and that belongs to this one. So we'll get try it now and execute. And there we go. Our beautiful data. And now if we go down here to our new method, we click on there, and we click try it now, and we hit execute. And there we go. It's beautiful. It returns some text. Okay, I think that's enough for today. Later on, we'll get further into it and build and build and build until we have a nice functioning application that interacts with AWS, and eventually it'll be running in a container in AWS. So it'll be all good stuff. Alright, well, thank you, and I hope this video explained a few things. And later on, we're going to learn how to put even more information into our self-documenting code. Really good stuff. Alright, thank you.